it's almost playoff time, so we have to decide what we're doing with these fantasy players that, quite honestly, haven't really been consistent. Cooper Kupp, for example, Cooper Kupp in his last 3 games has had 6-point-something points. I literally looked at the scores this week and I was like, oh, wow, he did it again, didn't he?
Yeah.
Guys, 6 points from Cooper Kupp, not really going to cut it. So what are we doing with Cooper Kupp? Well, again, Matt Stafford didn't play this last game. I don't know if he plays next week. What do you?
Well, they're on bye next week, so
that's right.
I really think McVay said that Stafford was going to be a game time decision going into the Packers game, which makes me think that he's. I mean, they're not going to say much about his injury. We won't know if he plays until he plays, but I think that's a situation where you're like, yeah, they're probably decided to play it safe, give him an extra week of rest, and be as good as he can be going into the last third of the season and see if they can make a playoff run. So I'm not super worried about it. Am I worried about his accuracy and how well he can throw the ball? Yeah, I am a little bit, which I mean, for me, I think Cooper Kupp is a high risk buy because of his volume. Like even the weeks that he's had 6 points these last 3 weeks, he's had 7, 10, and 7 targets.
Right.
Well, he just had Brett Rippon throwing him the ball like for a game and a half of that, and that was just absolutely disgusting. I wanted no part of that. Puka Nacua couldn't produce in that environment either. So are we worried about Cooper Kupp? Yeah, I would say I'm worried about Cooper Kupp. If I'm owning him, I'm definitely not selling him because of the ceiling that he offers. No one's really going to pay you enough for me to be excited about moving off of him and the upside that he has. If you're desperate, if you're 3-5, 2-6, and you have zero room to lose games for the rest of the season, he may even be a sneaky buy where you're like, I gotta shoot for the stars here. Hope that Matt Stafford gets back healthy, and hope that Cooper Kupp can start turning these targets into fantasy points.
Yeah, I'm gonna go buy here as well. I'm looking at 2 statistics here that really cement my decision. He's 3rd in target share when he's been playing at 33%, which is absurd, by the way.
Wow.
And a 38% red zone percentage, which is crazy. He's also 8th in target rate, so 29.5% there. He's, playing the Seahawks and then the Cardinals in his next 2 matchups. They're going to be pivotal matchups for guys that are really fighting for fantasy playoff positions.
Mm-hmm.
I like Cooper Kupp. We all know what he's capable of. We all know his ceiling. So in my eyes, if Matt Stafford is truly going to come back eventually, I think I'm fine buying him for sure.
Yeah, so. I completely agree there. Next guy that we're going to have is Jordan Addison. What should we be doing with Jordan Addison after, honestly, a more impressive week than I expected against Atlanta, with Josh Dobbs ending up having to play a majority of the game, and he really leads him to a comeback win in the 4th quarter. And Addison, 7 targets, 5 receptions, 52 yards. He hauls in one of those for a touchdown. He gets that last second touchdown. Like, we're looking at him being a consistent week-to-week start, potentially. He is 2.2 touchdowns over expected on the season. Am I worried about that? No, because, he did score the touchdowns. Like, he earned that. And honestly, for me, I don't want to overreact after 1 week of Josh Dobbs playing because, there's a lot of moving parts here. And once they game plan with him, like, how good will he really be? Will he miss a lot of reads? I really don't know, because honestly, a lot of Dobbs' production this week came from his rushing upside because he didn't know his players and he wasn't comfortable with the line. Yeah. So for the rest of the season, though, I like Josh Dobbs. Of all the QBs for them to pick up at the trade deadline to make up for Kirk Cousins going out. This is a good one. That was the best possible scenario I could dream of from a fantasy perspective for all of the guys in that offense, and this kind of ties into Hockenson as well. But the next 4 games for the Minnesota Vikings, you've got the New Orleans Saints, and then you have the Denver Broncos, Chicago Bears, and the Vegas Raiders. I really like those matchups. I really, really do. And with the uncertainty surrounding Justin Jefferson, I think these next few games going into the bye week are going to be pivotal for whether or not Justin Jefferson is going to come back, because I would assume they'd probably try to hold out on bringing J-Jeff back until after the bye. And if they're well above 500 after the bye, which is very possible with those matchups, then they'd probably want to bring him back for the final stretch, weeks 14 to 18.
True.
But those first 3 weeks, especially before that bye week, you're looking at Jordan Addison again as the guy. And another big part of this is, look at the target volume. Sam, you can put this up. The target volume that Marquise Brown has had through the first half of the year, and he was the one in the Arizona Cardinals offense on a way worse offense overall with Josh Dobbs. Josh Dobbs supported him. Even Michael Wilson had a couple games where he was producing. So this is a way better situation for Josh Dobbs. I think a way better situation for him to produce and continue to provide volume for a guy like Jordan Addison, who, no, do I think his ceiling is going to be as high as when Kirk Cousins was here? No, definitely not. But do I think it could be really safe and provide a nice floor? Yeah, I absolutely do. I don't think Addison's going to be a dud.
I'm going to go soft sell here. I'm going to see what I can get for Jordan Addison. There are two players I have in mind when I'm looking to deal Jordan Addison. The first one's going to be Chris Godwin. I think Chris Godwin is Jordan Addison level production, but more consistently, and I believe in him more the rest of the season. The second guy is going to be Christian Kirk, another guy that's going to be getting a lot of targets that also has shown to be fairly consistent with a floor of about 8 points. I think Jordan Addison's floor will be lowered without Kirk Cousins. I think that his ceiling is lowered a little bit, but I do think that there is a chance he can be a very consistent producer. That being said, I'm still a little bit hesitant to buy into these Vikings weapons. We're going to talk about another one of them next here. I think the schedule is favorable, but you're right. If they do end up winning some of these games, I think J. will come back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look what I can get, and if I can get one of those two guys and something on top, if you want it, I think I'm comfortable doing that. It's just going to depend because people were really low on Jordan Addison after the injury. And so it was like, he's definitely a hold. And now I'm like, okay, is he going to do this every week?
I mean, it was only 10 points. So that's why, again,
yeah.
If anything, he's a soft sell, I think, at best.
Yeah.
I don't think you can sell him for a lot because people are still going to, in your casual fantasy football leagues, are going to see that score after Kirk Cousins goes down. It's like, oh, he only scored 10 points.
Yeah, that might be true. So, I mean, again, I think I would be shopping him, though. So if I can move to one of those guys, I would sell. If not, I mean, again, don't sell for cheaper than you want to. But
now, are you selling TJ Hockenson?
I am holding TJ Hockenson. I'm not buying him, but I am holding him because when you look at the targets for TJ Hockenson in the last 4 games, the last 3 games that Kirk Cousins played, he had 8 targets, 12 targets, and 9 targets. The first game with Josh Dobbs, he had 12 targets.
12 targets with having never played with Josh Dobbs, never even knew him. Dobbs probably didn't even know his name going into the game. I mean, did you see that video of them on the sideline? Like the series before Josh Dobbs had to for sure come in, he was just working on taking snaps from the center.
Yeah.
Because just to get comfortable with getting the snaps. Like, I've never seen anything like this before. I think it may fly under the radar just how impressive that was for Josh Dobbs as a quarterback to be able to do that. But for Hockenson to get those targets and to bring in 7 of them.
Yeah.
7 of the 12 with a quarterback that he doesn't even know.
For 69 yards.
For 69 yards.
Nice.
That is so nice.
Yeah. I like it.
I love it. So honestly, if I'm being completely honest here.
Be honest.
I think Hawkinson's price and his value has gone significantly up to where it was in the offseason until the Kirk Cousins injury.
Yep.
And then him, along with Jordan Addison, they all plummeted.
Yes.
With that being the case, I would almost say buy TJ Hockenson. Because this is going to be one of the few times that you can get him at a discount when I think the tight ends, I mean, look at what Cole Kmet is doing in Chicago. Cole Kmet is producing as a top 6 tight end, scoring touchdowns left and right with Tyson Bagent, an undrafted Division II quarterback. If Josh Dobbs, like we said, can produce the volume can support these receivers here, like I'm not worried about Hockenson from a fantasy perspective really at all. Because, I mean, he does so much after the catch anyways.
Yeah, the reason I lean hold and not buy is because I'm hesitant to buy any tight end. I think if you are streaming tight end, then stream tight end. I think if you have a tight end that's viable, you roll with it. So I don't love going out and making moves for tight ends in fantasy football for anybody. That being said, if there's somebody that's down on TJ Hockenson to the point where you can get him really cheap, I'd obviously buy. My guess is that people will see 12 targets and they'll be like, okay, I can keep them.
So from a points per game perspective this year in PPR, TJ Hockenson is he would be the wide receiver 13 right now.
That's
with
awesome.
18 points per game. So does that kind of change your mind a little bit? Do you think it's worth buying him there? 18 points per game.
No, because I would want to.
You think his floor? You think his ceiling is lower still?
I would definitely say ceiling is lower. I just want to see a larger sample size with Josh Dobbs.
Yeah, I could be overreacting, but
I think
based off of what you've seen, I mean, you saw Trey McBride produce with Josh Dobbs, Zach Ertz before he went down with the injury, and Hockenson is objectively a better tight end than both of those guys.
Is. That's correct.
And it's a better offensive system. So,
yeah, no, I just don't want to overreact yet. I think that 12 targets makes me want to just keep him and not sell him.
He's definitely a hold. I don't think
definitely
he's
a hold.
I think, and that's the discussion here is like I think you're going to see those targets, and a lot of people are going to want to sell Hockenson because of that, because they don't believe in Josh Dobbs. And if that's the case, maybe you want to bite if you can get him at a real nice discount. But maybe I'm overreacting as well. So
yeah, I think there's plenty of potential for him to keep getting consistent targets, and so that makes him a viable option for your fantasy team.
Yeah. Next guy we're going to discuss is DJ Moore. Speaking of the Bears and Tyson Bagent and what's his name, Cole Kmet, putting up a bunch of points. DJ Moore, since Justin Fields has gone down, 9 points and 5 points against the Chargers and New Orleans. Vegas, did Bagent play in the Vegas game? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he did. 13 points in that game as well.
Last
Justin
3 games.
Fields is, I would assume, will be back. If not this week, he will be in week 11. He's practiced for the first time just a couple days ago.
Yeah.
So am I optimistic that he comes back this week? I don't think so, because you can practice with a bad thumb and really not have a lot of zip on the ball, and it take you an extra week to come back. I mean, we just had this discussion with Matthew Stafford. Like, he was a game time decision going into the Green Bay game, and there was a chance that he could have played, but did he? No, he didn't. Justin Fields has not even been a game time decision yet, so I'm not expecting him to play this week again in week 10. DJ Moore with Justin Fields, 20 points per game. DJ Moore without Justin Fields, 9 points per game. What do we do with Justin Fields with the assumption that what do we do with DJ Moore with the assumption that Justin Fields comes back in a couple weeks? With keeping in mind that DJ Moore was 3 touchdowns over expected with Fields this season.
I've been telling people to sell DJ Moore for weeks. They should have done it weeks ago. After week 5, they should have done it. I think if there are people that are excited about Justin Fields coming back and point to this and say this is why he's good with Justin Fields, then you sell.
Yeah.
If they're not and they're looking at 5 points, 9 points, and saying, yeah, I don't think DJ Moore is that good, actually.
Yeah.
He's probably a hold. I lean sell. I'm always just going to lean sell for these Bears offensive weapons. I think there will be people that are like, okay, Justin Fields is back. DJ Moore is startable. I don't know. Again, 20 points per game, yes, but how many of that was skewed by he had 50 points, right? In one game.
Right.
And this was over a period of 6 games. I mean, that right there is 8 points a game. 8.1, 5 points per game or something like that. So you're talking about almost 40% of what his points per game was from the 6 games with Justin Fields came from one game. So I've never been a believer in the Bears. I've never been a believer in buying into a bad offense, and especially receivers on a bad passing offense.
Yeah.
I still lean sell. I'm curious what you think.
I would agree. Knowing the Chicago Bears fan base and how seemingly huge it is, and just the fact that people think that Justin Fields is still going to be an MVP. I'm being sarcastic, but like I would still lean sell once Justin Fields comes back, because people would be like, oh, here we go. Playoff push. Let's go get DJ Moore. He's going to be the reason we win leagues. He's going to do all this again. I don't think so. I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't.
I don't either.
Let's go to Devonte Adams.
Devonte Adams with Jimmy Garoppolo. He's played 7 games with Jimmy, and he's got 14.01 points. Without Jimmy Garoppolo, he's played 2 games, and he has 14.1 points.
Wow.
That's like the same. So, does it matter? I don't know. Maybe it does. And you've seen Devonte Adams in his last 4 games. This is crazy, man. 4 points, 12 points, 2 points, 7 points. That's not great, Bob, especially for a guy that we said was going to be a league winner this year. It's not great.
No, not at all.
I don't love that. There are no touchdowns at all.
Wow.
Let's look at Aiden O'Connell so far. Holy frick. O'Connell's not been terrible. I mean, against the Chargers, he had 238 yards, pretty good completion percentage, and he had a touchdown. Against the Bears, he didn't play that much, but
that was a garbage time.
That was the garbage time production.
His 2 full games, he threw the ball 39 times and 25 times.
And he had 200 yards the other day. It wasn't bad.
I like that volume.
8 points. But, again, Devonte Adams, he's 2 touchdowns under expected so far this year. I feel like it can only go up for him. That's what I feel. Unless he's washed. Are we really going to bet that Devonte Adams is washed? Or are we going to bet that this is fluky?
I'm not betting that Devonte Adams is washed. I'm betting that the Raiders, I'm worried about Josh Jacobs. And I mean, the first game with McDaniels, after McDaniels is fired, he goes out there as a 20-plus point game, averages more, I think, than he ever has all season. He looks like the old Josh Jacobs. And now what is he, running back 4 on the year already?
Running back 10.
Running back 10?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm worried about Jacobs getting all of the red zone opportunities because they're going to have to lean on that run game more than anything because of O'Connell's limitations. So I'm definitely worried about that. I mean, you looked at this first game, Adams didn't even get a target in the entire first half.
Yeah, I know.
I was freaking out at halftime. I was like, whoa.
It really didn't get much better either. Like, I mean,
no.
7 points? 7.5 points?
Now he ended up getting 7 targets, but again,
average yards per catch was 4.8 points, 4.8 yards, I think.
Am I selling Devonte Adams at an incredible discount because he's going to be so cheap? No, I'm holding him. Am I buying Devonte Adams with this going on with Aiden O'Connell and Josh Jacobs seeming like he's resurging? No, I'm not buying Devonte Adams. It makes me want to cry, but I don't see how this situation gets better.
I think that if you want to be real risky, you could buy him. The one thing I am worried about with Josh Jacobs is the majority of his production came from the 12 points he had on touchdowns because he didn't have a target or a reception last week. That does concern me. If they're really going to bench Jimmy G, I do worry about his floor. He scored touchdowns in each of the last 2 weeks, and the week before where he had only 1 reception and didn't have a touchdown, he had 5 points. And that was against Chicago, and honestly, he should have played better. Produced more, at least. So with that being said, for me, it's less about Josh Jacobs and more about the quarterback situation. If they're really not going to roll with Jimmy, is Aiden O'Connell going to be able to support Devonte Adams? I don't know. Maybe sometimes you see these younger quarterbacks come in and get smart and start throwing to their best receiver. Maybe that happens here.
Right.
I'm going to go. I don't think he's not a sell. Definitely not a sell.
No.
I'll go hold. I want to lean buy. I'll go hold buy hybrid, I guess.
I just don't even know what the ceiling is for Devonte Adams
think about
at this point.
I mean, but it's Devonte Adams, so I feel like he has a 30-point ceiling.
Yeah.
And think about how cheap you're getting him after you see this production. I feel like you could get him really, really cheap right now. If you traded for or away Devonte Adams, drop it in the comments. I'm interested to see the price.
Like, would you rather have T. Higgins or Devonte Adams?
Probably T.
I mean, if that's the case, I think Devonte is nothing but a hold.
All right, I agree with you.
Because if you prefer Devonte over T. Higgins, then he's a buy there because that's probably his price right now.
All right, yeah, I'm good.
Tony Pollard. Let's talk about Tony Pollard here real quick. 8 games into the season for the Dallas Cowboys, Tony Pollard in 4 of those has scored more than 10 points. The guy who was poised to be the running back 1 overall in fantasy football. No, we're not victory lapping yet because anything could happen in the second half of the season. But
getting pretty close to victory lapping there. I'm not gonna lie.
His efficiency has plummeted.
Wait. You're telling me a change of pace back converted into a workhorse running back dropped in efficiency? No way. Where have we ever seen examples of this? Literally every time it happens, guys.
The vacated volume.
You can say
fallacy.
We're not victory lapping yet, but at the point where we get into double-digit weeks, I'm going to start victory lapping again.
Yeah, we're going to start rolling those clips, man.
Because right now,
once we get to week 14.
You're talking about the running back 16.
Even if Tony Pollard does turn it on in the second half of the year,
he's probably not a top 5 running back.
No, and he's not a league winner.
No,
he has cost
because now
many teams.
A lot of teams are out of the playoffs right now because of him, and it's too late.
Yep.
We told you.
He is the running back 17 in PPR right now, the guy who was supposed to have Austin Eckler-esque receiving upside, who was supposed to be the most efficient running back in the NFL because he was playing in a committee backfield with Ezekiel Elliott, who was getting all the red zone carries. Guess what? Now he's down to 3.95 yards per carry. Gosh.
Tony Pollard, you have to hold him.
You got to hold him.
Have to.
Yep.
There's no one else.
Yeah, there's no one else there. So he does have big playability. He does have those games where he can have very good games.
Well, and there's also his last 4 games of 5 targets, 7 targets, 1 target, and 5 targets.
Right. That's nice.
You have to hold on to that.
It's a good floor.
He's at least somewhat safe.
Right.
But again, 6 points, 9 points, nice. Not nice. Bad. Bust. He slid into the first round of best ball drafts this year at the end of the offseason.
Tony Pollard is a good weapon for the Dallas Cowboys, a nice product of the system, but as a running back and talent in his own right, I think he's proven that he's not worth the contract that he wanted. So
he does have the 5th most catches from a running back this year. That's why he's a hold.
Yep.
He is also 3.8 touchdowns under expected. That said, I think that was part of the problem was the expectations, right?
Yeah.
And then you mentioned the efficiency.
Yeah.
3.8 true yards per carry. That's 41st in the league. 31st in yards per touch. 22nd in yards per reception. George Kittle. Over the last 4 games, 27 points. Yay, 1 point. Boo.
Oof.
13 points. Okay.
Yeah.
23 points. Yay.
There we go.
He had 11 targets in his last game. 11. I love this. I love it when Brock Purdy uses George Kittle because I feel like they're really good together. He's 1.1 touchdowns above expected. But in 2022, Kittle was 5 touchdowns
That's crazy.
above expected. In 2021, he was 2 above expected.
Yeah.
What does this say about George Kittle and touchdowns over expected?
That this year his production is actually sustainable.
I would think so too.
It's sustainable if, and this is the biggest if here. This is a really fun fact. So this is a really nice statistic here. When you look at Kittle's production in 2023 without Debo or Ayuk, so like one of those guys missing the games, I mean, his production dang near doubles in every metric.
Yep.
21 catches to 11, 28 to 16 targets, 318 yards to 126 yards when Debo and Ayuk are both playing. And then that one game where he had 27 points with both of them playing, it took 3 touchdowns for him to get that 27 points.
So then what do we look at? We look at, is Debo Samuel healthy? Debo Samuel practiced today as of the recording of this video.
Yeah.
So what does this tell us about George Kittle? He's less likely to score 20 points. He's less likely to get 11 targets. Is it possible? It's George Kittle. Absolutely. But you also had a game against the Dallas Cowboys where he had 3 touchdowns.
Has he been consistent enough over the last 4 weeks for us, for it to merit him being a sell? With knowing that Debo's coming back.
Possibly, yeah.
I think he might be a sell. Yeah.
I think I agree with you. Because
it makes me really sad because I love George Kittle.
Yeah, George Kittle's one of my faves. But again, look, the statistics are pretty clear. Or as Nathan said, the statistics. 8.3 points per game with one of those guys playing. Like compared to 17.
That is a screaming
It's a stark
metric.
difference.
Yeah.
And it's a very clear correlation, too. Because
Well,
that's
it's a bigger sample size, too. 5 games with Debo and Ayuk both playing.
Exactly.
So
there are a lot of mouths to feed in that offense. We knew that. Yeah, he's a tight end. Stream tight end and sell George Kittle for whatever you can get for him.
Yeah.
Last guy here.
James Cook has not been very good at all. 7 points, 19, 8, and 7 against New York, New England, Tampa, and Cincy over the last 4 weeks. His volume it was pretty consistent, and then it went down to 6 in the Cincinnati game. And his receiving upside that everyone raves about.
James Cook, elite running back.
4 targets, 3 targets, 1 target, 0 targets. I mean, I would rather have Rashad White at this point. I would rather have Alexander Mattison. I would rather, who are some of the other guys that I would have? I think he is legitimately I would take him over Chuba, but they're in the same tier. Rest of the season, in my opinion.
I think I agree with you.
If you can sell James Cook for a guy that gets more consistent volume and has greater receiving upside, and people want to bite on James Cook being that guy in an explosive offense, like take it. Get rid of James Cook and take the other guy. I'm serious. We just gave you 3 guys who we would prefer, 2.5.
Not to mention Leonard Fournette is on the practice squad now.
Yeah.
Looking at carries inside the 5.
Latavius Murray got all of the goal line carries. Latavius Murray.
Who could have seen this coming, Nathan? That James Cook wouldn't have gotten red zone carries.
Every time I talk about James Cook, it makes me laugh.
It is pretty
funny.
comical.
Yeah.
If you can sell him, sell him.
Yeah.
If you can't get anything for him, you probably have to hold him. But sell him if you can.
Josh Allen is getting more carries inside the 5 than James Cook. That's hilarious.
And Damian Harris has gotten a similar amount of carries, and he's been out for 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think the verdict for James Cook is even though he hasn't been producing over the last month consistently, he's still a sell in my opinion.
If you can get anything for him, do it.
Yeah.
All right. That's it. Drop a like on this video. Let us know what you think in the comments. Make sure you subscribe. if you play fantasy football, we're trying to get to 5,000 on this channel. We appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you later.